Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Audiobooks. Sorry if I've got a bit of a funny sound with my voice today. I've had a bit of an injury with my tongue. Otherwise, today's video is about the Ghostbusters 2 novelisation, and it is fantastic as an audiobook. It also has a different perspective to how the movie could have been with the end product. There are deleted scenes that also confirm the way this novelisation came out. But as an audiobook, I think it's one to give a go. Also, as a disclaimer, the first book is not for children. It has a lot of sexual content and references, where I don't really like the first novelisation. However, this novelisation is close to my heart, but for now, let's just get into it. Number 1, protagonist or tritagonist?
We're the best, we're the beautiful, we're the only Ghostbusters.
There is a certain question that comes through that Peter Venkman is the central protagonist of the Ghostbusters franchise and within the films. The story does central around his character more than the other characters as the central protagonist. And it doesn't mean from different character perspectives that other characters are not protagonists. One of the interesting points though, there is a lot of time with the Louis Tully character within the novelisation, and some deleted scenes do confirm this. It could have been a very different movie as the end product. Though I see Louis Tully as a tritagonist of the story, connected in with Slimer and Janine. And some of the different perspectives of storytelling allowed his character to be positioned at different points. And I think there are certain scenes that will confirm what I'm saying within this novelisation. Number 2, the first script. The first script that Dan Aykroyd worked on took the story to Scotland. The premise went underground with different bug infestations instead of the slime that we know today. With the story, there was also a high premise on occultic rituals and different consequences, where there are things talking about in history with mushrooms growing in formations of circles. So there is some sort of other supernatural form, and there was a concept of the antagonist being a banshee. And this was not done within the cartoon series or any other story as yet about how these occultic rituals and things that we know in the modern world causing unknown reasons why mushrooms grow in these sorts of weird circles. Number 3, the scripts progress. The scripts went back to New York, and the story again went to the concept of infestation, as to this other reference within the film about cockroach breeding.
Miss this, Venkman. There could be a tremendous breeding surge in the cockroach population.
Roach breeding. This is sounding good.
So there was a little bit of a nod back to another concept of a script that Dan Aykroyd came up with. But the story, again, it focused on not having Dana Barrett as the mother to baby Oscar, and the baby was unknown in the next scripts, but within the concept, it was about another character to be Lane Walker, and Peter Venkman would be the love interest to this character as well. What a surprise! Within the story, it had a premise of another antagonist figure. Instead of Janosch, you had another character to be, I think it was Jason Loke, to be the father of baby Oscar, or baby unknown. And within this concept, yes, Vigor is still connected with the painting and everything else. But the other twist was the father is to possess his own child. And there was a history with an opening to be about how this Russian immigrant came to the USA. So there was a different premise of story that felt like something they haven't done before. But it also got a bit weird when you think about it, because he's possessing his own child to be his own father and grandfather. And then it brings me to a different concept.
My own grandpa. I'm my own grandpa. Everybody! I'm my own grandpa.
Ted and I have known Missy in different capacities for many decades. And Missy became mom.
She married my dad and became my mom.
And now she's marrying Ted's little brother. This happy event would seem to make Deacon his own father-in-law, and Ted his own uncle.
Not to mention making my dad his own son.
Do you understand why this situation might seem at all strange to your wives?
an absolutely messy situation when you think about it, because it goes a bit beyond the concept of inbreeding when you think about it. However, I didn't mind the way this script looked. I felt like as an antagonist to live different lifetimes, it felt interesting. And where the story had its own premise, I don't know where it goes, but instead of having Janosch, you have this other character with supernatural powers. Number 4, prologue and exposition. One thing I do like with the Ghostbusters franchise, with the introduction, there is always some element of different factors to consider when you're watching the film, or if you're reading the book, what are you looking out for? So within Ghostbusters 2, you do see the streets in New York, you do see how some people are arguing with a police officer, running and hitting someone walking with crutches, and you also see even this other person has anger issues when Dana Barrett is asking and requesting for help. She stays firm with her character, and that's one thing I do like within the franchise. With this story as well, you look at the elements of the slime being introduced subtle, then to what was going on with baby Oscar. And it's also that situation of being hostile, eyewitnesses, and what was going on. Also, that bus was not going to stop for whatever reasons in that type of crisis. So it's a lot of factors to consider when you're watching an engaging introduction, or if you're reading or listening to an audiobook. You think about all those little subplots and little things in the exposition, what's coming in the story ahead. Number 5, the real Ghostbusters in Ghostbusters 2. So that's always one of the arguments, is it the real Ghostbusters movie or Ghostbusters 2? Because there's so many things that changed from the first story, and Ghostbusters did have a wider audience, thankfully because of the cartoon, though there was something else within this one scene that was cut from the movie, but it's in the book. And within the book series, the real Ghostbusters in Ghostbusters 2, it's 3 parts. There is a scene where when Winston restrains Janosch, Ray was looking into the painting and was possessed temporarily. There is a little bit of footage about the high-speed chase that happens after that scene, and from there, Ray's going to make sure they all die. The only other little bit of footage in the final product of the movie is that one little scene in the montage where, yes, it recycled some of the footage, but Ray was possessed. So within that scene, he's going to try to kill them all, and Winston intervenes and punches him. So I wonder with how the book or how the movie could have been when you add that scene. Also with the possession point of this with Ray, it also leads up to the climax when Vigor possessed Ray at the end. And there's another point to point out there as well, but you can see that there was something that should have built up to the climax if this other scene was in the movie as it is in the book.
We'd like to shoot the monster. Could you move, please?
Ray?
Ray! Ray! No! I, Ray, am Vigor!
Also, when you pay attention to the slime blower hitting Vigor, it also confirms within the video game that there's that overwhelming sensation of the slime to stop someone being possessed. And different types of demonic possession is in every single Ghostbusters film. Number 6, character deaths. In the novelization, there are a couple confirmed deaths. With Ghostbusters 2, out of all the 5 movies currently out, it is the scariest. And yes, it comes under as mild comic horror, or whatever you want to call it. It still has a lot more tension built up than any other film.
Okay, I'm out of here.
And there are character deaths, which also brings another concern of the fear being a lot more unknown. And yes, in Frozen Empire, there are a few character deaths as well, but it just doesn't quite have the feeling of being as scary or vulnerable. But with Ghostbusters 2, the 2 major deaths that are pointed out, in the time of the montage scene where things are out of control, and once Vigor's got Oscar in the museum, the slime covers all the walls. I love that scene, it's awesome. In the montage, there was a scene that didn't get made, and there was a few props and designs for the scene, but there was supposed to be a frog monster at the end of a tunnel, where the train is going through and the subway, and a lot of passengers don't realise that, yeah, they're vulnerable and they're going to get eaten alive. There's also another character death that was in a deleted scene, and it was Haymeyer. Now, yes, in the closing credits, he's in the closing credits to say that he's not dead, but within the story, it's more of an assumption. But he's screaming at the slime wall.
Come on! I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but with all due respect, if we don't do something by midnight, you will be remembered in history as the man who let New York get sucked down into the 10th level of hell.
Listen, mister, I don't know what this stuff is, or how you got it all over the museum, but you had better get it off! It's coming through! Now get out of my world!
Characters are looking in shock. There's that little bit of a moment because in Ghostbusters, it's not a big thing for characters to die. But again, it had a lot more tension in the story when it was put in. And I love the audiobook for leaving this part in. It worked well for the story. Number 7, Vigor. I found Vigor was an interesting antagonist. There was something more where, yes, Janosch got a little bit annoying talking to him and being his servant, but within the whole story of Vigor, I found him to be an interesting antagonist. I think there was a lot of potential. I still have to say I love the slime wall. It is awesome. Within the premise of the story, I think they did a fantastic job with Vigor, and it's one of those movies, it has a love-hate to it, where not everyone likes the movie, and a lot do. I still think it's a wonderful movie, and as a book, just some of the added scenes were better. Also with Vigor, instead of just appearing, he steps out of the painting, and the way it works in the story is fantastic. There's a lot of different things that you can learn when you do listen to certain audiobooks. So with the novelization, maybe give this one a go. Number 8. Louis Tully the protagonist or tritagonist? With the story, I enjoyed it. Louis Tully has so much more time within the story where he is almost like a protagonist with the amount of things that he does with the story. But again, he is a tritagonist because of how he intertwines with the story in a different way. And again, it would have been focused within the interactions of him and Slimer and Janine to build a different story arc within Ghostbusters 2. I'm just going to play a quick montage of Louis Tully just to make a point and get to a final point within this.
Boy, this equipment's heavy.
Just you and me, pal. Couple of guys looking for each other. Only one of us did a wee bit better on our SATs.
Oh, gee! Are you okay? Sorry, it was an accident. Well, I was just trying to catch that stinky green guy.
Oh, he's all right.
I'm like the 5th Ghostbuster. We're gonna be in real big trouble if we don't move fast. That ghost guy came in and took that little baby away. It was just a scared little baby.
Again, Louis Tully had other roles within the cartoon that came out later on. The series became Slimer in the real Ghostbusters. And again, I felt like it just cheapened the story too much for the cartoon, but it did introduce Louis Tully. And I think some of the premise of Rick Moranis, what he did with this role, even though he's been long retired from acting, I don't know, there's just something that I do appreciate with this story. And I've enjoyed the audiobook. So if you want a different change of perspective, I think give this audiobook a go. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment, and I'll be doing some more audiobooks soon. Thank you for everyone for being patient. I've just got a bit of an injury with my tongue, but hopefully that will heal soon.